Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports. Happy New Year to everyone. We talked to you right before the New Year on New Year's Eve. Hope everyone had a lot of fun celebrating and bringing in 2025, which should be even a better year than 24. You always got to be optimistic, and everything always is going to improve. Thought 24 was a great year, but 25 hopefully can be even better. So, yeah. Excited to talk Rams football, which will continue hopefully deep into 25. We got one more regular season game. They have clinched the playoffs. We'll talk about those scenarios, players not playing, and kind of what that looks like as we prepare more so for the playoffs than this last game, since it's more of a preseason game, if you will, for the Rams. We'll get all into that. But first and foremost, my man who joined me on New Year's Eve got to celebrate ringing in the New Year. Well, he left a little early, but we celebrated like the New Year got there already. Skinny T, what's up, man? How you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, it was a really fun time. There, if you haven't been out in Pasadena on New Year's Eve, they're throwing tortilla shells and whipped cream and marshmallows, and we engaged in a little juvenile activity out there on Colorado Boulevard. Had ourselves a good time.
Yeah, I've lived here 7 years now in Pasadena since getting married, and did not know until last year that was like a tradition. And it used to be like wild, I guess. And now they've kind of cracked down a little bit. So you have to be a little more selective. But yeah, for those who don't know, it's like kids and families just like load up with silly string and tortillas and whipped cream and marshmallows and just like huck them at cars as they drive by and people. It sounds extremely illegal, but it was a good time. You had a good time. You loved it. My daughter didn't love it, but
yeah, she got a little freaked out.
She kept getting angry. They're thinking that we've trained her so well about not being bad that she thinks anything you do bad, the police is going to take you away. So I think she just was protecting us, thinking we were going to get in trouble.
Very sweet of her.
Yeah, probably for the better. So show as always still in 2025, brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. I do this every time, Skinny. I don't have it in front of me. I'm guessing the Rams are underdogs considering none of their starters on offense are playing, but I don't have it in front. I'll try to look. But you can find it all at BetOnline. They have the best money lines, the best spreads. Every sport you can imagine is all on betonline.ag. No promo code needed. Just go place your first bet. Tell them the guys at the Rams Skinny or LAFB Network sent you. And let me see. I think I have it right here. So the Rams are 7-point underdogs.
Wow.
Plus 250 money line. Over under set at 38.5. No faith in Jimmy G to score points, I guess, huh?
I don't blame them.
I don't either. So, I mean, the offense can't score with Stafford, Kupp, and Puka Nacua. What makes them think they're going to score a lot with Jimmy G and the rest? But hey, maybe they'll surprise people. But anyway, all that can be found at betonline.ag, where the game starts. So, Skinny, let's start with this. All of the inactives, I guess you can say, announced. Sean McVay told the media, and we have an article up on LAFBnetwork.com that you can reference. But essentially, based on today, Friday, no Matthew Stafford, no Kupp or Nacua, no Kyren Williams, no Alaric Jackson, no Kevin Dotson, and Rob Havenstein is still nursing an injury, so he probably would have been out regardless, but for sure out in this one. So with that being said, defensively, no names were listed as out, which, we'll get into it. I think that's wise just because of how young the defense is, but looks like all the defense will at least start. How many reps and how many drives they play is a whole nother conversation, but they should at least all start. And then kind of the more intriguing news is former starter, who's now the most expensive backup in NFL, Jonah Jackson, will play in this game after getting injured and then not getting his starting job back after coming back healthy. So he will get some reps in this game. But overall, before we talk about just the philosophy of resting guys, just your thoughts on, are you surprised at all that Stafford and co are not playing, or is that pretty par for the course, you think?
Yeah, par for the course. I think McVay always likes to err on the side of caution in these things. Doesn't want anybody getting hurt for games that really do matter. And this game still has some significance in terms of where they end up in terms of the playoff seeding. So, So I think, yeah, it's absolutely, par for the course, really expected, kind of shocked that we're seeing, Higbee's not on that list, Steve Avila and Bo Limmer aren't on that list. Again, young guys. Yeah, I mean, I think, good counts on both, offense and defense. Get those guys some more reps. From what I've heard, Seattle is going to be playing this game. They're going to be trying to win this game. They want to get another win for their head coach. Their playoff fates are already sealed, so they only have this to play for. So
Yeah.
I think that, given that, I think all smart things on the side of the Rams.
Yeah, I'm mixed on this, and I guess we can get into kind of the philosophy of resting. McVay, this is no surprise. Obviously, he kind of started the trend of benching player or not starting starters in preseason. Like everyone kind of forgets, like that was really the McVay thing when he came here. Like it was like no preseason games or starters playing. He did that from the time he was hired, and now the league has kind of adopted that, and 60% of teams do it while others still will play here and there. So it's kind of always been his philosophy. He really trusts the process of their midweek preparation. Even and we've talked about this before, even their practices are pretty light. I mean, we're not there every day, obviously, but we've seen enough where heavy install days, like no even throwing on install days. It's just like air, and they're just like mental reps and a lot more put into the mental side. And obviously, you're doing strenuous stuff in the weight room and conditioning wise, but they've been a team that have taken the philosophy of like, we are not going to lose guys in practice based on having hard practices. And you watch like Hard Knocks with Detroit Lions, and obviously Dan Campbell's very different at that. They're running like Oklahoma drills like in week 7 of the regular season, like still just going smash mouth. So it's a very different philosophies. The Rams were very injured this year, but they're healthy right now. So obviously you want to go into the playoffs fully healthy. And, I think when you look at guys like Stafford, Kupp, Nakua, like they've got enough reps where, I wouldn't think you need another game. However, the offense has been so bad the last 3 or 4 weeks, or 3 weeks, I guess 4 weeks ago was the Buffalo game. It's been so bad that it's like you almost do need those reps. Like, I don't know if it is a continuity thing. I don't know if maybe it's Kupp isn't feeling fully healthy. That's why he's been kind of MIA. And so this extra rest will help. I don't know, but it's to me, it's a little worrisome when your offense has not been good to then take the week off, and with the potential of where their seating can change, which I'll get to my next thing and then toss back to you. So I'm not just talking the whole show, but the fact that if they win this game, they essentially lock in a date with the Washington Commanders. Either way, this will be a home game as they're a top 4 seed and a division winner, but they would lock in a date with the Commanders. Commanders are a fun up and start team, but I think, Rams, I like that edge with just the veteran leadership and kind of where they've been before. They lose this game, they're most likely playing either Minnesota or Detroit. Those two teams play each other. The winner wins the division. The loser will drop to that spot where they would probably play the Rams. So, I mean, I don't care what you try to like mask it as a coach or say like you'll play anyone anywhere. Like, I think it's pretty clear you'd rather play Washington than Detroit or Minnesota, who are arguably two of the best teams in football and will be one of the highest win total teams to ever be a road wild card team in the history of this league. I mean, it might be a 14-win team on the road in the wild card. So to me, that is a big deal. And we've seen before, we've seen both sides, right? We've seen where coaches say, nope, we're playing everyone. Like, we need to keep the momentum. This is a momentum game. They play everyone, and someone gets injured. I mean, the Chargers did it 2 years ago when Brandon Staley was coach, and Mike Williams gets injured in that game, in a meaningless game for them. But we've also seen it where guys get benched, get rested, and then come to their playoff game rusty and get blown out when they were like, should have been wins. So what do you think? I don't know. I'm so mixed on this whole philosophy.
Yeah, I think it's sort of team by team, I would say, and player by player, and that's what I was trying to say kind of in a way about, making sure that those young guys are still out there getting the reps. Stafford, definitely, I think, rests that arm up. I mean, I've been on the record that I'm not inspired by his arm. His deep throws aren't connecting the same. He's not throwing deep. He's thrown 3 big time passes. That's a PFF stat where they track, these explosive possibility passes and whatnot. Won't go down that rabbit hole more, but a guy like some of these other players have been a bit prone to injury. So, I mean, Cooper Kupp also seems like he needs a bye week. Puka Nacua, I might have out there, I might not have out there. He's been a little bit injury prone. Kyron Williams has been banged up his first couple of years in the league. So, I think in a case by case way of thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense what they're doing. But then you think about the offensive line and you look at, just how much Stafford has been hit and how little they've actually played together as a unit, compared to some of the other units. I mean, some teams haven't lost any offensive line, and now they're going to revamp the entire offensive line. And those guys are going to they're going to miss a week of playing together in real live football in serious circumstances where, like I was saying, Seattle's going to be rushing the passer. They're going to be trying to win this game. So, yeah, I think, it's, do you want to go into the playoffs knowing that you're going to have Puka Nacua injured, or Stafford injured? I could definitely see the rationale behind it. But, like the old ball coach used to say, we play to win the game, right? And
Yeah.
I think that should be your philosophy all the way through. I mean, if I was a coach,
Yeah.
that would be, hey, we're lucky enough to play this game every week. Now let's go out there and play it.
Yeah. Well, and just on that point, like, whether people believe bulletin material is real or not, I don't know. You're being paid millions of dollars. Like, if you really need extra motivation, then what are you doing? But I think there is some sort of way to hype guys up. And I mean, we all feel, I mean, it's human emotion, right? Like, you can take certain outstanding things in life and kind of use that as motivation to hype you up. I mean, Amon-Ra, not to just keep making it about the Lions, but like Amon-Ra St. Brown talks all the time about how there were 16 receivers taken in front of him. And now that is like always, he has that in the locker room, the names that were all drafted in front of him and what he strives to beat. And so sticking with the Lions, because there's a real chance if the Rams lose this, they will play the Lions if they don't beat Minnesota. Or Minnesota could do the same thing. But if you're that other team, Minnesota or the Lions, and I don't know if Minnesota, I mean, I'm assuming Minnesota's going to play because they're playing for the division. Dan Campbell's already come out and said they're playing all the way through. Like, they're play to win every game, like you just said. And so let's say it's the Lions and the Rams and it matching up. You don't think Dan Campbell's going to be like, this team wanted to play us. They benched their starters and were not afraid to play us. Like, they didn't care if they lost in the regular season because they didn't care whether they played us or Washington or whoever. Like, I'm probably making something of nothing, but like, that's the motivation that, like, why give that to a playoff team that already beat you twice in a row, end of last year and beginning of this year. And now you play a third time and you give them the motivation. Like, they're not scared to play us. They benched their starters because they're afraid to get injured. They'd rather just play us. I mean, I wouldn't want to give them any motivation.
Certainly not. And I think that the Rams should be thinking that they would rather play Washington, that has not a stellar defense, rather than any of these other three teams that they're going to possibly go up against are all better than Washington. So I can't believe that they wouldn't be attempting to win this game to ensure that. But I heard, I think it is the Heed the Call podcast with that Jordan Rodriguez sometimes on, and they were previewing this game, and she was saying, from what she's understood, they are more afraid, or not, I won't say afraid, but they would rather play some of those teams that they are more familiar with. So they have a lot of experience with the Packers and the Lions, and have played the Vikings just earlier this year, and we're able to put a game on them. I mean, that was one of the games you can point to and say, hey, this team can actually put together a good performance against a playoff bound team. So, but I mean, it's just a bizarre, strange way of thinking. And they always come across as a bit contrarian in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not my thinking. So we'll see who's right on that one.
Yeah. Well, and on a positive side, like, obviously they lost last year, but they benched their starters in the last game of the season against San Francisco, went into Detroit, and like, I don't think there was any like rust necessarily. Like, they started off a little slow. I don't know if people want to attribute that to guys not playing, but I mean, it was a 1-point game, and I wouldn't say that they lost that game because the starters didn't play the last game of the regular season. So history tells us that they should be fine. And how crazy is that, Skinny? That back-to-back years. Last year, this team started 3-6. This year, they started 1-4, and yet both years they had the ability to bench starters in Week 18. Like, that's pretty incredible when you think about it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating when you state it like that.
Crazy. So I wonder if the league will ever, just for all the kind of like purists and caring about the product, I wonder if, like, because I know there's this big debate in the NBA, and the NBA is obviously very different because guys take games off all the time for load management. But I wonder if the league will ever say, like, no, you can't bench guys in week 18. Like, fans pay lots of money to come watch. Like, I'm sorry. I don't want to pay $120 to go watch Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I'm just not going to go then. Like, I wonder if the league will ever step in and, like, yeah, you have to, if you're healthy, you're playing. And then teams will find a way of, like, oh, bruised calf. He's out this week.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I was, I'm a Notre Dame fan, and they pulled a fake injury. So I mean, if there's a rule, teams are going to figure out how to bend it in their favor, and that one's a hard one to legislate.
Yeah,
But
and everyone's done it for so long. I mean, for
yeah.
years, teams if they clinch a spot, they've benched. Like, this is the new Week 18 format. Like, this is going back when they were like 14 and 12 game seasons or whatever, 13 game seasons. So, yeah, I'm just curious if the league, because the league obviously is adding games for revenue purposes. And if, you're getting last year, right? It was, we had Carson Wentz against
Sam Darnold.
Which is funny. Sam Darnold's like an MVP candidate now, but going into that last week game, it was like, oh, nice. Carson Wentz against Sam Darnold. And it ended up being a fairly exciting game, but that's not what the top billers pay for, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's a hard one to suss out, even from the NBA side of things. It's like you're playing. I mean, in the NBA, at least, you're playing a couple times a week, and that's hard on the body. And I mean, football is even doubly. I mean, like they say, like it's like getting hit with a train or something like that. So fewer train wrecks a week.
Yeah,
I can. This is a tough one because I can see both sides of it for sure.
Yeah. And for me, I know I just said, like, I don't know, I'm not paying $140 to watch Jimmy Garoppolo, but there is a side of me where I'm like, I'm really excited to watch Blake Corum all game. Like, Kyron Williams has been great. We can finally see a full game of Blake Corum. Get some more reps for some of these young offensive line guys. Jordan Whittington, we can maybe see a lot more. I know we saw a decent amount of him when both Kupp and Nakua were injured, but so there is that side of it. If you're like a diehard, like, fan of the depth and the youth, like, then you get that. But for kind of the casual fan, it's like, well, I'm not watching the Rams this weekend. If I don't have fantasy football because that's over, and I don't have any of the stars playing. Like, all right, we'll see you in 2 weeks on the playoffs.
Yeah, are there guys that you're that we haven't really seen a lot of that you're excited to watch?
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones I mentioned, we've talked Blake Corum all year long about hopefully getting him more reps, and obviously it's hard to take away from Kyron. I mean, it's crazy. For those who don't know, Kyron Williams is third in the NFL in rushing yards, almost third. I think he finishes at 1299. I think is what his total is, right around there, just behind Saquon Barkley, who's at 2K, and then Derrick Henry, who's at like 1800, and Kyron Williams is 3. So, and last year, remember, missing all those games, and he still finished over 1,000 yards. So Kyron Williams is quietly become a top 5 running back in this league. I think hands down. I don't think anyone can argue that. So it's hard to take him off the field, but we've been pounding the table for more Blake Corum reps, not to take away from Kyron, but more just to preserve Kyron for these playoff games coming up when you're going to need him. And you definitely don't want to take him off the field in those playoff games. So hopefully that won't be a factor, but him resting and getting to see Blake Corum, I think I'm really excited about. As I mentioned, Jordan Whittington, hopefully he's back fully healthy. We can see him more because he flashed, right, Skinny? Like, he showed some flashes in those when he was kind of the pseudo wide receiver 1 as a 6th-round draft pick. Like, he showed some flash, and obviously he's done some special team stuff. So it'd be fun to see him more involved. The last one I'll mention, because again, defense, we don't, as of now, everyone's starting still. They're normal starters. They won't play the whole game probably, but so I'll just keep it to offense. But this could be, Skinny, the last audition for Tutu Atwell to remain a Los Angeles Ram. I mean, last year was contract. Obviously, they'll be in the playoffs, but as we've seen, he doesn't get a ton of run with all the receivers healthy. So, I mean, is this the last true, like, potential game-breaking performance we can see from Tutu?
Yeah, probably. I mean, Jordan Whittington's on the injury report right now with an ankle injury, so I don't know. Maybe they'll exercise some caution with him. I don't know. But it seems like it's gonna, from the receivers, it's probably gonna be DeMarcus, Tyler Johnson, Tutu Atwell, Jordan Whittington, some combination of them with maybe some Xavier Smith worked in there.
Yeah.
But wow, can you imagine? We won't have Tutu Atwell to bat around anymore. It's It's
I
been
think
such
this
a
is it.
weird. Been a, I I I cannot imagine why they would bring him back. I
Yeah.
don't know what I mean. He's he's been okay. I mean, I would take Jordan Whittington over him. I mean, somebody's going to pay him for his speed, but some of these little speedy guys have not really panned out very effectively, like on a consistent basis. But it was kind of all the rage when he was taken to just kind of go after some speed, and
But
they and they lack it too. So
it's so it's so funny. Sorry to cut you off. I was like looking through videos on my phone the other day with Mia, my daughter, just like I was trying to find a video of something I couldn't remember. And it was all the way back in whatever that was, 2020, 2021. And I randomly had a video saved to my phone with our good friend Sosa Caranges, who used to be the Locked On Rams host, and now he does like Underdog Fantasy. I'm sure a lot of Rams fans listening know who he is. Big Sos on, I think his Twitter is like QB's MVP or something. But awesome dude, still great. We need to have him on again. It's been a while, but I had him on. This is before me and you were even co-hosts, and we were recapping the draft. And I asked him. The video clip was like, "Who's your favorite pick of the draft?" And his favorite pick was Tutu Atwell. He's like, I know it's like a cop out because he was the first pick taken, but I just love what he brings, the speed, and just how he can open up this offense with Matthew Stafford. Like, that's what we all thought. Like, he was going to be a home run hitting pick with Matthew Stafford as quarterback. It's just never matriculated for whatever reason. And before I toss back to you, Skinny, so this year, his contract, basically every year, because he's on his rookie's contract, was averaged like 480,000 or something like that. His cap number this year was 1.8 million was his cap number. Oh no, excuse me. Yeah. So his base salary is 1.4. His signing bonus was 400. Cap 1.8 million. Like, I don't see a world where the Rams would, and usually you don't go down on your second contract unless obviously you're going to be out of the league and you'll take whatever. But I don't see a world where the Rams like, yeah, we'll give you $2 million a year to re-sign you. Like, do you?
I would like to move on. I would like to move on from Tutu so I can stop thinking about why it didn't work, like how it failed, who failed who. They obviously have some affection for him. They have some sort of desire to keep him around because they haven't cut him. I mean, they traded Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
They moved on from yeah. The Cam Akers as well before their rookie deals were. I think maybe before their rookie deals were over. So yeah, I think it's time for that experiment to be officially over. I think I've said it several times that it's been over, but
we'll see.
That'll make it. Yeah, well, hey,
Maybe
he's going to put together a heck of a game. He and Jimmy Garoppolo, even though Jimmy Garoppolo can't throw the ball down the field or outside the numbers. It's not.
Get some shooting screens or some bubble screens and take it to the house. He's gonna have a monster game. 10 catches, like 180 and 2 tutties.
In terms of how this game I think is going to play out, I don't like their odds at all. I mean, they already have bad odds as a 700 or 7.5 home underdogs, point underdogs. But you got a rebuilt offensive line protecting Jimmy Garoppolo with a cobbled together offensive or wide receiver group. It doesn't spell any I don't think we're going to see a lot of great stuff from the offense. And to bring it back, Jonah Jackson, he's going to play right guard after getting demoted and benched for Bo Limmer at center. He was originally supposed to play left guard. What a mess there. And then Joe Noteboom's going to play left tackle, and Warren McClendon at right tackle. So yeah, I don't envy Jimmy Garoppolo in this game.
I mean, he's a mobile run first quarterback, so he should be okay. He should be able to evade that pressure that Seattle will certainly send in that Mike McDonald system.
He was benched November 1st of last year by the Las Vegas Raiders, who picked Aiden O'Connell to play ahead of him.
That's right. That seems so long ago that he played for the Raiders. I don't even remember that he played
more than a year ago. Yeah. Not very remarkable.
Yeah. I remember now. I remember because we were, I was in Vegas actually for the Pac-12. No, that would not be last year. Was it 2 years ago that he was with Vegas, or was it last year?
No, it was 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, 2022. 2022, he was backing up Trey Lance, and then Trey Lance got hurt, and then Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt as a 49er. And
Yeah.
then that's when Brock Purdy came in 2022.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought I remember being in Vegas when his benching was announced because I was for the Pac-12 championship game, which would have been, well, that would have been December 1st. And that was whatever. Doesn't matter. So anyway, yeah. Okay, let's do this. I want to end with a quick rumor, but let's just, end with, again, we didn't like preview the game. It's going to be all backups. Game doesn't really matter. I still think there is some meaning behind it just because of your seeding, and that's a big difference playing those teams. But what do you think? Do you think they shock the world and Jimmy G goes off and Blake Corum has a solid game and, the defense with the starters playing potentially the first half, they're able to kind of hang on? Do you think they shock the world and get to 11 wins or finish this thing out at 10-7?
I think they finished this thing out in 10-7. Yeah, I don't think they're moving the ball at all.
I mean, if they do, there may be some questions about the starting offense if this backup offense can move the ball. Like, maybe we're rotating some more guys in here. But yeah, I would be very pleasantly surprised if the Rams win this game, and it'll be fine. I think ending at 10-7 will be okay. Again, I don't love having to play Detroit or the Vikings, but they beat the Vikings and they took Detroit to overtime, so it's not like they can't do it. So I guess we'll leave it at that. So let me ask you this then. This is probably a whole nother episode, so we don't need to spend a ton of time on it because the off season is coming and we'll need lots of stuff to talk about in the off season. I don't know why my camera just flickered. That was odd, but however, we've talked extensively, Skinny, since like 2 years ago, for sure last year, for sure this offseason, about what is the Rams contingency plan at quarterback. And we talked before the trade deadline when things were not looking good. Would it be wise for the Rams to trade with the Vikings? We know the relationship between both those teams. We know the relationship between Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell. Trade Matthew Stafford for Sam Darnold. This was like, again, before the trade deadline, the Rams were like 1-4, and the Vikings were obviously off to a hot start, but it was early. Did the Vikings see Stafford giving them a better shot? They have J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings. They could give him more time to rest. Well, Stafford has, 2 years left on his deal. And then the Rams can get a 27-year-old Darnold that looks like in that system, which would be the same system with the Rams, a prolific passer and could be good. Now, fast forward, and if I'm the Vikings, I don't know how you let Sam Darnold walk. I know you just drafted J.J. McCarthy. They're very high on him. They took him, 10th overall? But it's not like Sam Darnold's 35. He's 27 years old. He's an MVP candidate. He led you to a 14, 15 win season. We'll see what happens in the playoffs. The team loves him. The locker room loves him. Like, to me, that's detrimental to move on from him, pass the keys to a rookie coming off a season-ending injury. So now it becomes interesting. Do teams, a la one being the Rams, call about J.J. McCarthy? Because guess what? Now they can be what Minnesota's situation was we talked about. Well, they bring J.J. McCarthy in. Stafford still has 2 years left on his deal. J.J. can learn in the system, nurse that injury, not be forced to start immediately. I've been already talking too long. Your thoughts on that?
I think both of those guys make really intriguing options for the Rams. What's the reality that the Vikings hang on to both of them? Or, Sam Darnold's going to be a free agent after this year. I think there's probably an opportunity that they could tag him.
Yeah,
they have a cheap deal for JJ McCarthy because he is a rookie. He's going to be on that rookie contract for 3 more seasons after this one. Probably some contingencies in there for his health. Maybe, I don't know if that affects the contract. Regardless, not the point. But I think both of those are really intriguing options that the Rams are going to be kind of keeping a pulse on for sure. I would lean more towards the Vikings moving on from Sam Darnold. As bad of a picture as you did paint of that idea. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that you would trade up for a guy and then stop believing in him. I mean, they were supposed to win 6.5 games this year. This was never the plan. So maybe everything's up in the air. Maybe everything's weird now. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like both of those options as succession plans. Most of Darnold's tape is not very good. He's got one good season under his belt. JJ McCarthy is completely unknown in terms of a pro product. He didn't throw the ball a lot in college, so a lot of people were skeptical. Even, I mean, what was he, the fourth or fifth quarterback taken? Sixth quarterback?
Fifth. Yeah, Bo Nix was sixth. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna, if I had holding my feet to the fire to choose, I would say that they move on from Darnold. They don't re-sign him, and they look to JJ McCarthy again. I think the big matzo ball hanging out there is how they perform in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
If they get bounced in the wild card game against the Rams,
yeah,
I mean, that's justification for moving on from a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who has very little playoff experience as a pro.
Yeah. Here's where if I'm the Vikings, I'm trading JJ McCarthy and keeping Sam Darnold. And here's why. I don't need to keep bringing the age, but Sam Darnold's only 27. I mean, this is so unprecedented that you see. Like we saw years ago when the Colts had Peyton Manning, who was injured, they draft Andrew Luck first overall, deciding to seemingly move on from Peyton Manning. Now, obviously, Peyton Manning had a much more storied career up to that point than Sam Darnold has, but Peyton Manning was like 34 years old, 33 years old at that point when he went and signed and played 4 more years for Denver. Sam Darnold could play another 10 years potentially. Again, I totally agree with you. This is a 1-year sample size. But I think we've seen in this league time and time again, situation matters so much. And when guys get in the right situation, in the right system, with the right teammates, the right coaches, you don't ruin that. I mean, look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield now with Buccaneers. I mean, if I'm Tampa, I'm never letting Baker go. Are there better quarterbacks? Yes. But like he has that locker room. He has that city. He plays at a very high level, had one of his best seasons this year. I mean, you can go down the list. Geno Smith with Seattle. I still don't think Geno Smith has been great, but obviously has been a pretty good quarterback with Seattle when he found new life there. So I think this Sam Darnold thing to me is not a fluke. He found the correct system with the correct coach, with the franchise that believed in him. Players love him. The locker room loves him. The city's gotten behind him. To tag him, the QB tag for 1 year is like $38 million. So if they just want to tag him, they're shelling out $38 million to play him 1 more year and still have JJ McCarthy behind him, making that top 10 rookie pick money. So, I mean, the salary cap gets interesting as well. The other reason why I'm trading is because based on stuff I've heard, and I'm sure you've seen too, JJ McCarthy right now would be rated as probably the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. Meaning they can keep Darnold. So let's say give him like a Geno Smith type deal. Geno Smith, I think, got 33 years for like $90 million. It was like $30 million a year. It wasn't like the 55 that Dak's getting. They could probably get him for somewhere around there. And they could probably trade JJ for 2 or 3 first-round picks. So you take a guy that didn't play a single down for you and turn it into 2 additional first-round picks, and you get your franchise quarterback who just had an MVP season, led you to the playoffs, 14 wins, is 27 years old. To me, it's a no-brainer. And then the Rams can go get JJ McCarthy, who's 21 years old. Yes, he's coming off an injury, but can sit behind Matthew Stafford. We know the systems match between Minnesota and LA. Like, it's a win-win for everybody all around. Everyone goes home happy. Rams always like to F them picks anyway, so they got to go after quarterback soon. So why not do it now?
I think you sold me on that one. 3 first-round picks.
I started getting louder. That's the only reason why.
No, it makes a good point. I mean, 3 first-round picks is steep. But I mean, I think that was what was going through my head when you were talking about it. Is what would they have to give up to do that? They're not going to trade up in this year's draft to go get Cam Ward or Deion's kid. So, yeah. Shredder. I always want to call him Shredder, but that's not it.
Not a bad nickname.
Yeah. So, and they gotta get this. They gotta start working this out. They're not going to have a high draft pick. They're probably not going to trade up this year. That kicks the can down another year in terms of trying to find something or somebody. Yeah, I mean, so Kwesi calls you up. You're the Rams GM of the day. He says, "Hey, I can trade JJ McCarthy to you right now for 3 first rounders, or trade Sam Darnold today under contract. Which deal do you take?" Because you can get Sam Darnold at you can probably get him for a 2nd rounder.
Yeah, you'd give up less. I would still go JJ because you're protected with his rookie contract still. So he would still have 4 years with the 5th year option on his deal. Well, Sam, you're trading and you got to work out a long-term expensive contract. And if Stafford's not going anywhere, I mean, are the Rams really going to allocate $60 million to the QB room for Sam to then sit a year behind Stafford? Or are you just moving on from Stafford at that point and saying, sorry, like, thanks for the fun, but we're moving on? Which they could do. I mean, the Rams, I think, treat their players well, but they've shown that it's a business and they'll do what they have to do. But for me, before I get too long-winded, I would still, I mean, the Rams have proven you don't need first-round picks. I'm like, sure, 3. Or maybe I'll try to finagle a little bit. Like, we'll give you 2 and a 3 and a 6 or something. Like, maybe we'll try to finagle away from that third one. But 2, if it's 2 first, I'm not even thinking about it. But yeah, take them, please.
Love
I
it.
don't need them. I don't need them. Tell me where to send them. Venmo?
Can you trade picks on Venmo?
Yeah. The Rams seem like they do. Here you go. You need a pick. You need a pick. You need a pick. So, yeah, we'll see. Obviously, we'll have all offseason to have that fun speculation because the Rams got to do something. We know Stetson Bennett's not it. We know Jimmy G's probably not even going to get re-signed. So, regardless of the fact they need a backup, they need a QB of the future. And you don't want to – I know we overstate all the time, but I'm telling you, Rams fans, because I've lived it as a Broncos fan. Skinny T's lived it. A lot of fans and friends we know have lived it. Like, you do not want to go from having a franchise QB to being in QB purgatory. You want to have that backup plan set. Rem fans should know it. I mean, before Jared Goff, it was like they were in QB purgatory with Case Keenum and
Nick
Sean.
Foles.
Who else do they have? Sean Mannion, or like it was. So, I'm telling you,
Sam
plan
Bradford.
it out now and be ready for the future.
Yeah, these things aren't just growing on trees. It's like, hey, you just go pick up a quarterback from quarterback tree and plug them in, and everything's rosy after that.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating offseason. We'll have all sorts of time to talk about it. But, we're talking about Jonah Jackson. Joe Noteboom is a free agent. What are you going to do? Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford? It's fascinating. What about what are you going to do on defense?
I mean, it could be a very different look. It already was this year with obviously Aaron Donald and other guys leaving, but it could be a very different looking team heading in the next year. But we're this year right now. We're going to the playoffs here in a week. We'll stay focused on that, but just some fun chatter as we head into this, basically head into this bye week. Essentially, we can call this a bye week.
Definitely.
So, anything else to add, Skinny?
No, sir.
All right. Well, hey, pleasure as always, my friend. Thank you, Ramley, as always, for hanging out with us. Rams, Seahawks, Sunday, 125 kick at SoFi. Hopefully we get to see some fun plays from players. Knock on wood, no injuries for any starters that are suiting up. Let's get to the playoffs, and we'll have a lot of stuff next week for you as we prepare for the playoffs, whoever it is that the Rams will meet, which will be a game at SoFi, a home game as a division winner. So looking forward to that. So thank you all. Have a blessed weekend. Enjoy the game. We'll see you all soon.